Join David and Ross as they become discombobulated in Dorset. From pixies to poltergeists, witches to woodrows, hear them explore the legends, folklore, and outright weirdness of their own county. This is Dark Dorset, the podcast of weird horses.
Hello, I'm Ross in Dorchester.
I'm David in Wareham.
And this is Dark Dorset. No, it isn't. And this
Yes,
is Dark. It's Dark Dorset, not Dark Dorset. Even though the intro does sound a bit like Dorset. Dark Dorset, and this episode we are going to be talking about the haunted pubs of Poole. Right, have you got any beer there, David?
I do.
What beer have you got?
I have a Guinness because it was the only thing I had in the fridge, and it's cold.
So it's local to your fridge.
Local to my very local to my fridge, and there's even some spares in the cupboard next to the fridge.
Oh, nice!
And I haven't had a Guinness since I heated some up and made a pot noodle with it, and I think this is going to taste a good deal better than that did.
Was it nice?
It wasn't bad. It was better than the one we made with Doombar, and much better than the pot noodle we made with Thatcher's cider.
So why were you making pot noodles out of booze?
Because we were camping and we were messing about.
But the thing is, I've done a similar thing. I remember when I was a student, I got invited to go out with some. It was like foundation, art degree foundation. So it's the 1 year you do before you go off to proper university. And after being at school all through my life with the same people, the same horrible, gross people, you got that 1 year where you go and you suddenly there's like one other person from your school there, and you can completely reinvent yourself, and you make all these cool new friends and stuff. And I got invited to go go out to the indie night at the local sort of indie rock place, and I got invited to stay over this disgusting student house, but I felt it was so cool. But anyway, we all got really. I turned up drunk, got even drunker, and threw up from their front step. And then we all went out, came back, and then it was early hours in the morning, and I said to everyone, should we go and get a takeaway? And I said, let's get a curry, we've got to get a curry. And everyone's saying, there won't be anywhere open where you can get a curry. But I was like, convinced.
Classic Ross.
Yeah. So I got a whip round, got everyone to give me some money, and I went off, and I just wandered around like early hours in the morning in Boscombe or wherever it was, trying to find a place which was open. I couldn't. All I could find was a all-night garage. So I bought a load of pot noodles, and I made them all with boiling water and beer in a washing up bowl, and then tried to feed this to everyone who was asleep by the time I got back, and they was all just angry with me because I spent the money they gave me on pot noodles. And then I was sick again, and then I never got invited out to those people ever again
till this day.
Yeah, so that was the end of that.
That's nice.
That version of friendship with all those cool people who I just threw up over their house and made a beer pot noodle in a washing up bowl.
You look like a Guinness as well today with your black t-shirt and your white beard.
Yeah, that's really good for an audio format.
That's right. Look, I'll hold my Guinness up next to you.
There we go. Virtually. Well, I have got a local beer. Oh God, I can never. Why can't people just use normal fonts on things? Maybe it'll say on the back. This is called Blow Me Over. It's a well-hopped, smooth IPA brewed on the west coast of Dorset at Windward Brewery in Bridport. Have heard of that one?
It's very local. No, I haven't. What's it like?
Let's have a look. Smells like beer.
I thought you were going to blow across the top of the bottle and make whistling noises.
That's not doing it. That's it. It's just whistling. It's nice. Doesn't taste like beer. It is This is a 4.8% episode.
Nice.
Okay. If it's your first episode, we don't just talk about beer. It's just I normally forget to talk about the beer we're drinking
until we've had the beer.
Yeah, until we've had the beer. Right.
Has it got an umbrella on the label?
Yeah, because it's being blown away.
Of course.
Blow me over.
How bizarre.
Right, David.
Why sells beer like a photo of an illustration of an umbrella?
Or maybe it's going to make me fart. God, beer is so expensive, isn't it? £3.75 that cost me, that one bottle. Um,
All right, old man.
Well, I'm. Was that you farting then?
No.
No. Okay. All right, I'll keep that in anyway. I can add a fart.
Yeah, I bet you will.
Yeah. Right, so David. Why were we in Poole? Why were we visiting the haunted pubs of Poole?
We were visiting Poole because we were combining our love of folklore and unbelievable ghost stories with something else that we do occasionally, which is a sketch crawl. And a sketch crawl is us and a few friends going from pub to pub, like a pub crawl, but we take our sketchbooks along. So we doodle things, draw things, scribble things as we go. We often go to a pub first and we'll draw the interior of the pub, or we'll sit around a table and we'll draw each other. And then we'll move on to the next pub. We do a few outdoor sketches in between pubs sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And where have we done them in? Poole and Bournemouth and
Winchester,
Dorchester and the Winchester. And we did one on a train once, didn't we? From Bournemouth to Dorchester, stopping at every station and legging it to the nearest pub.
Yeah, even if they were open or not. We were stuck at one place where there was no
great planning.
And we've done Corfe Castle. That was a good one.
Corfe Castle was excellent.
So how many years have we been doing it, and why did we start?
We started because it sounded like a laugh, I think. And the first one we did was in Wareham, and that was in 2017. God. Yeah, and I think that was you, me, Kaz, and Sean. I remember Sean falling over in the mud.
Yeah.
And I think Amy and James joined us as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did some brass rubbing.
Did we?
Yeah, that was cool. Oh, we also did one in Dorchester when Dippy the dinosaur was in the museum, didn't we? That was a really good one. And it snowed. And we almost got kicked out of the museum for being too rowdy and dropping paints from the balcony accidentally.
Yeah, I got really ill then as well. I seem to remember I got really ill like the day after. Not from drinking, from I think it's just like an oncoming cold. But yeah, we've done a lot of them. Yeah.
We do. And admittedly, we did one on my birthday, didn't we, last year?
Yes.
That was the last one we did. That was excellent. But admittedly, after maybe just 2 or 3 pints and 2 or 3 pubs, it ends in drawing obscene things everywhere, rude things. And we like to play games where we pass the sketchbooks around and we draw different bits of people and make up.
I should point out the phalluses we draw aren't from life. They are they are comedic phalluses.
Apart from when we tried to draw a duck's phallus, that was from a photo.
Yes.
And they're incredibly long. You wouldn't believe how long a duck's penis is, which is why we were Googling it. I think.
Yes.
And then trying to draw sexy ducks.
Yeah, and also how long owls' legs are. That was another realisation. So that's what a sketch crawl is. Come along to the next one if you're listening and you fancy it. It's good fun. The idea is that you don't need to draw at all. There are people that haven't drawn since they were at school. It's just about having fun, messing about. People do turn up with lined paper and blue biros to do drawings, which astounds me still.
Yeah.
But it's all for the fun of drawing. Yeah, some people turn up with watercolours with no water, so they have to use beer instead.
It's nice just to try and concentrate on something for a while.
Yeah.
Having said that, my drawings of the sketch crawl in Poole were horrific. It turned into more of a get together and a catch up and it was more of a drinking session,
wasn't it? It was a very hot day as well, and I was wearing sunglasses and outside a lot, and my sunglasses aren't prescription, so I ended up with a massive migraine. Just again, old man moaning, not focusing on the positives, but it was still good. But we got to go around some Poole pubs and find out.
Do you remember, Ross, the episode we did where we went to find the toll gate that opens, and I dismissed it, and then I got knocked off my feet by a gate that opened on its own?
Yes.
Well, I think that same spirit was involved this time. Because when we tried to come and meet you on the train, even though it's only 3 stops away, something had thrown a shopping trolley on the train line, and we were delayed by over 2 hours.
Classic poltergeist activity.
Definitely, didn't want me there.
Would it have been roughly near where that toll gate was?
Nowhere near.
No,
No.
okay. But you could have said it was.
I could have said yes.
For the sake of the the podcast.
I could have done. But we can go back and edit that.
Yeah.
So by the time I got to Poole, and I was a bit late, and I apologise, but everyone else was late anyway. The plan was to visit 8 locations.
Yes.
That we'd chosen in advance because of their spooky goings.
When we were visiting the locations, I did record why we were at each location for as long as I could remember to do so. It was I'm still not making any sense, but hopefully,
I know what you mean.
Yeah,
I know what you mean.
Yeah,
we forgot towards the end of the day, and actually, even before that, I was a bit of a dick on camera, so I'm glad we won't use most of it.
Well, now I know you're embarrassed to use it. I probably will use it, but I have since then. I've asked Bard, which is the Google AI, to summarise the ghost stories from each place. Somehow, Bard has decided that a lot of the things happened. A lot of the same things happened, and they've all got the same landlord with the same name. But so we can see what Bard is saying matches what you've got. You've got a book there, haven't you, about Haunted Poole? Is that?
Shh! Don't give the game away.
Oh, sorry. Okay, you've got many tomes, and
but yeah, I think that it'd be interesting actually to see. I reckon the ghost stories in the pubs of Poole are very similar to ghost stories in pubs all across the land.
Yes.
Like I was working out in the beer cellar and my tools moved or my hammer fell off.
Yeah.
And I looked around and then I felt cold and the door wasn't open. Come on.
So I was thinking about this, David. What is it about pubs that make them particularly haunted locations? Is it A, that there's they got a long history and a lot of things happen there, and you've got all the psychic energy of all the people who've been in there over the years, or B, people are drunk in these buildings and they tend to lie when they're around other people.
Yeah.
What is the most sort of plausible explanation, would you say?
I think it's a combination. I think it's mostly the alcohol, getting people to imagine things or getting people to exaggerate things, and they get away with it because it's a pub, and that's kind of expected to some degree. And also, pubs have normally very long histories, so you kind of expect it more. It's more believable, isn't it?
Yeah, it's one of those things. Particularly when towards the end of there's one pub in particular, which when you're in there and the realization of how old this building is you're in, and how badly looked after they are, considering the age of them. The way that
it's more surprising that more people haven't died.
Exactly,
isn't it really?
Well, should we start the Blue Boar, which is the Blue Boar is a pub. It's probably one of the closest ones to where I work. It's sort of just on the outskirts of Old Poole. Yeah. It's kind of famous for having a downstairs cellar bar where they used to play live music. Back along now, it's kind of like a jazzy sort of charcuterie sort of place.
Jazz and ham.
Jazz and ham, yeah.
Love it.
That's our next podcast.
Freeform salami.
Ross and David eat some cured meat whilst listening to a classic jazz album.
It could be a detective show on ITV.
Jazzed on ham.
You could be Jazz and I'll be ham.
Yeah, sounds good. But it was one of the first pubs my dad ever took me to when I was young. I think
how young?
I would say 8 or 9, something like that. There was one time where my mum went to stay with her parents for the weekend, and I, for some reason, decided I didn't want to go, and my dad looked after me, and it was quite a rare occasion, and he decided to take me to a couple of pubs and went out for a curry, which was like, whoa! I've never done any of these things before, and it felt very grown up, and it was very grown up. Yeah, I had light cheese for the first time on that night as well. But that pub was apparently my dad's dad's. So my granddad, local, he died when I was probably 2 or 3. So I've got no memory of him. But he was a jeweller in Poole High Street. And was from Poole, and so they've got the family history there.
And this pub's just off the back of the high street.
Yeah,
isn't it?
and it's just over the road from the Masonic Lodge, and apparently my granddad was a Mason, so that's why it was his local. So he used to go to the pub.
It's a nice pub. We used to go there when I worked in Poole, and it's always quite comfortable. There's lots of army memorabilia and navy, especially kind of boats and R&I memorabilia hanging from the ceilings, and the food's good and the beer's good, and it's just really lovely. But we were sitting outside. Yeah, it was such a lovely day.
Yeah, but the reason we were there in particular was the secret tunnels of Poole, and this is something which, when I was an 8 and 9 year old boy, my dad told me about as well. That the legend is that there was a secret tunnel from that pub to Poole Quay, which smugglers and pirates would have used to get contraband into a hidden cellar. I've recently been in that pub, and it's got a new landlord, and I went in there because I was talking about putting a gig on in there. But I obviously asked her about ghosts and tunnels and all that kind of stuff while I was there. She said that she hasn't found any tunnels yet, but there are. But it was one of the first things people told her about when they got the pub, and she said there are blocked up sort of like access points down in the basement. So she said it could be down there, but she doesn't know. But she believes that she's felt a presence in the house, but she doesn't in the flats upstairs. She said as soon as she moved in, she felt like there was someone there, but she said it didn't feel particularly malevolent or anything.
So the guy that first turned it into a pub used to live there. That was his home, and he had a pub on the quay,
right?
Which was either called the Blue Boar or the Lord Nelson. I think it was called the Blue Boar, but it's where the Lord Nelson is, something like that. Anyway, but he used to kind of look after tobacco and alcohol, etc. So he may have looked after these at home in a secret tunnel or something, and then he later converted his house into this pub, which became the Blue Boar. And there was some work done in the 80s where they did find a secret doorway.
Okay.
And they opened the door, and no one has ever spoken about what they found behind the door. Yeah. So it could be something really scary that no one's to talk about, or it could be nothing at all left.
So Bard, Google's AI, tells us that there is a legend of some tunnels which lead to a secret chamber where treasure is hidden, and the tunnel is haunted by ghosts of smugglers and pirates, and it's connected to other tunnels which go as far as Bournemouth. This to me sounds like a load of bollocks, and AI getting mixed up with. And it also says the tunnels are used by Nazis during World War II. So take that with a massive pinch of salt, and also just to let you know, this is the future of reality, where AI will just make up a load of shit and compile a load of other things together.
I think that's how ghost stories work anyway, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah. Because, like you said, potentially if there was another Blue Boar down on the quay, that sounds more realistic, because it's quite a long way from the quay, isn't it, to have a tunnel?
Yeah,
it would be a quite a logistic feat to get. Because how far would you say? Half a mile? Yeah. So I don't think it's not realistic.
Yeah. So apparently in the past, waitresses have seen dark shadows and shapes walk through walls. And this isn't the first time that this will appear, but you either get a smell of tobacco or a smell of lavender. Yeah, as you get kind of cold presence go past you.
I wonder if the smell of tobacco has sort of gone away since the smoking ban.
And the smell of lavender was just coming out of the toilet air freshener.
Yeah. Oh, so one of the last pubs we went into today, the very furthest one, which plays live music, and it just had lots of bikers in there.
Yeah.
Oh, the smell in that place! It was disgusting. It was like
something died in there.
It was just like bleach and like disappointed testosterone. It was just horrible. Anyway, okay, so that was the. Did you? I
didn't really have a drink there because I got there so late. But what were you drawing there? Were you drawing the secret tunnel?
I was drawing a man with a motorbike helmet who was there. I was talking to, but I wasn't quite sure who he was.
Oh yeah, his name's James.
Oh James,
yeah, he's good fun. I'd only met up with him recently after I used to work with him 10 years ago, maybe. Yeah, it was great for him to come along.
Yeah. Cool. So then we David had turned up by this point. and we made our way to the Angel. Is that correct?
Yeah. So the Angel is a. So we used to drink here quite a lot when I worked in Poole. It used to be a kind of spit and sawdust, and then Ringwood took it over and made it rather lovely. We used to play darts in there, and all gang up on the same person and take all this money every lunchtime, which was excellent. But there's a story here that a punter coming into the pub saw some kids at the window, waved to them. They waved back at a kind of top floor window. And then as he ordered his dinner and his beer, he remarked to the landlord how lovely his kids were. And the landlord said, "There aren't any kids in this building. I don't have kids. What are you talking about?"
Yeah. Sounds like it does protest too much.
Yeah, it could have just been a Fritzl suite, couldn't it, upstairs or something. But,
a reverse Fritzl.
Again, I don't think anyone else has ever seen it, and it's not really that interesting. But it's a nice pub.
So this is not the pub of the story where the children were killed. Is that another one?
No, that's the next pub. So let's go there.
Yeah. But what I would say before we do that is that the fact that there was two pubs near each other with a similar story about children makes us feel like to me, like maybe again stories have sort of leaked from one pub to the next. But let's cross the road, David. But I would recommend the pizzas in the Angel if you're looking for something to eat in Poole. They do nice pizzas there.
This is Ross's food review.
Yeah.
Do they let you have extra things on there when you ask?
You always ask for extras, don't you? Always about maximising your jazz and ham.
Jazz and ham. And an extra slice of cheese. Yeah, that's pub number 3. I think we had a couple of pints in the Angel, didn't we? And there was a kind of wedding party getting in our way. So we went over to the Crown Hotel. I've never had a drink in the Crown Hotel before.
This is supposed to be the most haunted pub in Poole, isn't it?
It's the most haunted building in Poole, yeah. And it's a very old kind of coaching inn.
Is this the one where had like weird furniture in it? It was like we were sitting in like a French palace or something.
There wasn't one big table for us all to get around. I think there must have been 9 or 10 of us by this point.
Yeah, it was all set up for like just 2 people per table, wasn't it?
Yeah, so there were lots of random bits of furniture, but quite,
it was very nice.
Nasty way.
It was it didn't feel very pubbish. It felt very like hotelish to me.
Yeah,
but recently done up. But
Totally.
Tell us the legend there. I've also got in my Mysterious Dorset book, which is given to our listener Gareth. Thank you, Gareth.
Beautifully out of focus.
There's a good story about that in here as well. But you tell us your story as well.
So the story that I've read about, is that the landlord years ago had a couple of children that were quite deformed in some way, not sure how, and he was embarrassed of them, so he hid them in an upstairs bedroom and chained them in there so they couldn't escape, and they died. And so to cover his tracks, he then buried them under one of the floors. And apparently for the next 400 years, people have heard screams and children playing and looked around and haven't seen any children. The milkman has refused to leave milk in parts of the building. And a piano has been heard repeatedly playing. Yeah, the same chord. And in the 1960s, some Ghostbuster from Australia came over, and was looking forward to debunking the myths. But then, as he locked the door, he saw it unlock in front of his very eyes.
Yes, that's Mr. Alan Brown. I've got him. He's in my book as well.
Going back to the children thing, right? And I don't know whether Caroline knew of the children.
So Caroline is your partner, we should say.
Yeah, she was on the sketch crew with us, and she went to the toilet in the Crown, and she heard kids playing outside the window. And it goes into a courtyard. It's that bit we weren't allowed because there was a function on in there later.
Right,
they didn't want us. She heard kids playing, and when she came out of the toilet and looked through the window, there was no one outside that window.
Oh, fantastic! Our first bit of potential phenomena. Well, yes. So my stories in Mysterious Dorset are similar to yours, but apparently in the 1960s, 1965, 1966, when they were doing a lot of changes around Poole, I think that's when they started developing what is now the Dolphin Centre, which was then the Arndale. Apparently that caused some poltergeist activity in some of the shops where eau de cologne bottles are being thrown around and all that kind of stuff. But it also apparently excited the ghosts in the Crown Hotel as well. It said that, again, a lone note was played on the piano by an invisible hand, and there was the sound of a body being dragged across the floor, and a fluorescent mist came down the stairs from the stable towards a group.
The fluorescent mist.
Yeah. Oh, yes, they're fluorescent. And it drifted across the courtyard and out the hotel entrance. And like you said, a Mr. D. Brown of Australia stayed at the hotel and painted 5 crosses on the door and bolted it, and then it just opened on its own accord. Yeah.
So it's quite famous because of that incident.
Yeah.
And it seemed to be famous because Caroline heard some kids outside the toilet window.
But how can you tell the difference between just some generic thing being dragged across the ground and a body being dragged across the ground? I think that is open to...
We need to do some forensic tests.
Yeah. So I'm going to play now some sounds to you, people, which I will record afterwards. One of them will be a body being dragged across the ground. One will just be a generic object.
When they do lots of ballistic tests, they use pig bodies, don't they?
Yeah.
To stand in for human bodies, because they take bullets and in the same way and decompose and.
And there's a place, isn't there, where they leave bodies in different places, and then they record how they rot and stuff, so they can, like.
I think that's Turlin Moore.
They wrap up in plastic and like carpets and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, and then they see what they look like after certain times, and then they can like measure the time of death and stuff.
Yeah,
lovely. Yeah, so that was the most haunted.
That's good. Yeah, not been in that pub before. That was enjoyable. I can't remember what I drew there, but all my drawings were terrible that day, so we won't bother with that.
Yeah. So next we went to the Old Harbour office.
We did. We stood outside. We'd been to 3 pubs. We'd all used the toilets and heard the screaming kids, so it was time to go outside.
I got the right screaming kids.
Always a quick one, isn't it, when we do a sketch outside?
Mm-hmm.
So we went to the Old Harbour office that stands on the quay, which used to be a reading room full of maps and merchant-type documents. And the mayor of Poole, back in 1717, Benjamin Scutt, who was from a rich merchant family, he used to go there quite a lot. And he was the mayor in Poole 3 times, 1717, 1727, 1742. There's quite a gap there, isn't there?
Yeah.
But apparently he hung himself in that building.
Yeah.
And his ghost can be seen wearing full regalia and wig, marching up and down.
Again, why do ghosts have clothes? And why do they wear? Why
They'd
do
be
they
a lot scarier if they were naked, wouldn't they?
Yeah, but and also they wear the clothes which, like we saw,
which they're
famous for, like Lawrence of Arabia dressing up in his Arabian outfit in his garden, which he probably never did. You know, it's just. Yeah. But like we said before, you know, if there is such a thing, maybe it's just your brain, sort of like interpreting whatever signals it's getting and putting it into a thing which you would recognise. But I suppose you'd have to know he was a mayor in order to put him in mayoral clothes.
Luckily, a few of us realise that there's a big relief, like a looks like a pub sign, but it's in relief and it's built into the wall on the side of the building, quite high up, of Benjamin Scutt in his wig and regalia. But his face is so weathered, it just looks like a lump of deformed plasticine.
Yeah, it looks like that thing where someone touched up the picture of Christ. Made it look like a monkey. I think it's also that building's also got a plaque, hasn't it, from about Operation Overlord, leaving from there, because I think a lot of the boats going to D-Day left from there.
I think it became the HM Coast Guard office for a time as well. Yeah. Well, it's been refitted at the time now.
I saw a really cool thing today because it's the anniversary of D-Day today, isn't it? As we're recording this.
Yes.
I saw a really cool thing where in France because the graves in France for the I think it's the American soldiers are like white crosses or I think do they do stars for the Jewish soldiers? I can't remember, but they are just marble and it's carved into the marble. But what they do on the anniversary of D-Day is they take sand from the beach from where the beach was, and they rub it into the graves so that the sand goes into their names and makes them so they can read it, and that's like a tradition they do. And I thought that was a nice little touch that people still do. And
so the next pub, luckily, the building next to that harbour office is the King Charles.
Yay!
Not named after our current King Charles, but named after King Charles X of France, who abdicated and arrived from France onto Poole Quay in 1821.
I did not know that.
They renamed the pub, which was called the New Inn back then, and they called it the King Charles.
Oh,
and we've been here before on Sketch Crawls, and it's really quite good. And there's a big upstairs room with the roof timbers you can see, and apparently some of the roof timbers is made from the hull of an old boat, an old wooden boat that was pointed out to us.
This is the one which I was saying, when you're in there, the realisation of how old some of these buildings are. And the following, or last week, last week.
You did have your gig there, didn't you?
Yeah, we did. We had our, I work at the RNLI, and I realised that a lot of the people in my team are musicians or been in bands or are in bands now. So I got them all to agree to sort of form a super group, and we did a charity gig there to raise money for Poole Lifeboat Station. And we performed up there, and it was brilliant. It's really good night. But just the fact that I'm pitting like bunting into wood, which is probably 400 or 500 years old, and
you're still allowed to do it. Whereas, when I've been working at National Trust Properties, there's a lot of paperwork just to put something in front of a wall without even fixing it permanently. Yeah,
and like when I'm just looking for somewhere to plug something in, I just like get up on a ladder and there's all these bare wires and like just rubbish just like shoved into holes. It's just like the fact that it's just such a fire hazard. But
the ghost story is very good at the King Charles as well, isn't it? Because it's Poole's own Romeo and Juliet story where the landlady fell in love with a mariner. Who went to sea, and they decided they were going to stay faithful to each other and keep the flame burning while he was away. But he didn't come back when expected. There was a big storm, and he never came back. And she waited and waited and was so heartbroken she decided to kill herself. I think she hung herself. And then, of course, he came in the door moments after and saw that she'd killed herself, so he killed himself because he couldn't bear to live without her and what he'd done to her. And again, apparently, people nowadays have reported feeling cold and smelling either a lavender smell or when she's present or when he's present. Apparently, there's the aroma of the sea and a feeling of anger.
Oh, okay. Well, the aroma of the sea, we're literally next to the sea. You can see the sea out the window.
And the feeling of anger is just the drunk people in the pub.
Poole, that's just Poole High Street on a Friday night. Bard told me that a group of friends were sitting in the inn bar when they heard the voice of a man and a woman talking, and the friends said the voices sounded sad and lonely. It could be the fact they were a man and a woman in the pub. Talking.
But we did talk to the landlord there, didn't we? Because we'd met a couple in another pub who seemed to be on a pub crawl doing the same spots as us.
Right.
And their son was managing the pub. So we did talk to him about any presences he's felt, and he dismissed them all.
Yeah. Well, but it's a cool pub. You should go there. And
it's
I think,
a very cool pub.
And up on above the stage, up in the lot, in the upstairs room, they've got a table and chair set up for the couple. I don't know if you've noticed that.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so like a little homage to them with
oh, that's cool.
Like some flowers on the table and stuff.
Did we accidentally sit in those?
No, you can't get to it. You have to. It's up high.
Oh, up in the thing.
Yeah,
I got
up in the roof. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. But it's also famous in sketch crawl circles because when we did one there a few years ago, Mike fell asleep in that pub, didn't he?
Yes.
So
we reenacted that picture. The one picture he had complete head of hair, and none at all.
Complete chin of hair.
Yeah.
Cool. So the next one, we went back out to the quay front itself.
Yeah.
And it was very busy. And we stood around drawing something, which was, there's a story about a whipped woman.
Yes.
Who was probably publicly flogged at some point, and she can be seen there once a year when the weather's correct.
Yep.
and she can't be consoled, and she's wearing tatty old ripped up dress with all the kind of
I've definitely
rip marks
seen
in
this
the back.
person. I've definitely seen them. But apparently a man was fishing off the quay and he saw a woman's hand reach out of the water and the hand was bloody and scarred. Have you heard that?
No.
Have you ever come across any bloodied and scarred hands whilst out fishing, David?
No. I used to do more sea kayaking than I do, and I would quite like to find a body in the sea at some point. Because I think you always read about, so and so was washed up here, and someone who's been missing for months has been found on this beach or under this pier. And I think it would be fascinating to see in a morbid kind of way, but also to help find someone.
Yeah.
And that's quite good. But yeah, I'd probably never be able to forget it. Yeah,
and
you'll
totally poke them with your stick, whatever you use to kayak around with.
My kayak stick.
Have you ever seen a dead body, David? Or is this going to be too traumatic a question to ask you on the?
Not a dead human body.
No.
I've seen when I was young. One of my friend's dads was a police forensic photographer.
Okay.
And I remember him showing us some photos. There was a small plane that had crashed, and the pilot was climbing out of the aircraft, but he'd got totally burnt. He was just this black, mummified shape. And the only other photograph I remember was the back of someone's head who'd been hit. Someone had taken a 7-iron and just taken a chunk of his skull out with this golf club. Yeah. But they were black and white photos. Yeah. Not that that's how old I am. That's just what they were like.
So did you just bring them to school then and say, do you want to see some pictures of some dead bodies?
No, his dad showed us. There was a group of us. There was a whole pile of photos, but they're the only two I remember.
Weird.
Yeah.
No, I haven't seen a dead body yet. I don't
Probably locked up, didn't it? I've seen, dead animal bodies and things.
Everywhere.
Obviously.
Yeah. Just driving along. Any road.
I was jumping along. I was fishing on the Dart on this beautiful little stream in the middle of the moor. And I was jumping along across these boulders in the middle of the river. And there was, and they're about 2-3 foot, kind of nice, kind of rounded boulders. And I was about to jump on the next one, and I realised it was a dead, bloated sheep with its fur and all. Come on! And if I jumped on that, it would have just exploded. I don't think I'd ever got the smell off.
Was that one of those things where you're realising your body had already committed to it? Like when you're sitting down, you realise there's no toilet seat down.
Yeah,
you've already committed to it.
Yeah. I pulled away at the last minute on that one, so all good. Well, let's get back to this. Right. Forget that one. Portsmouth Hoy. That's a great pub.
Yes.
That's when I first moved down to Dorset, I had my job interview and we went there for lunch and then we walked out and totally forgot to pay. And then I bumped into the people that had interviewed me while getting a hand on the shoulder saying, "You haven't paid." But that pub's lovely. It's got lots and lots of model boats in it, really intricate scale models of lots of war boats, historical and up-to-date boats.
You say that the chef makes them? Is that what
Yeah, someone told me that the chef makes them. And I thought they'd be really good, and I was looking forward to drawing a lot of them. But we sat outside in the sun.
But also, when I went in there, every table was reserved, but it was empty.
The big table at the back wasn't reserved.
Oh, right. Was it a case we weren't allowed to take children in there?
I think so.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. But I didn't. So I don't think we stayed there very long, or I wasn't aware. I think I went in there to use the toilet, and that was about it. But what is something about ghostly galleons?
Yeah. So this is the pub itself isn't haunted, but I thought it was a good place to talk about the galleons. And this goes back to I want to say the 1700s, but I might be wrong. Where old Harry Pay, one of Poole's famous kind of pirateers, would go out and antagonise the Spanish fleet and the French as well, apparently. And he caused a lot of hassle, and he'd take their treasure and their cargoes. And the Spanish got a bit miffed with this, so they thought they'd come over, and they heard he hung out in Poole. So they came over and they kind of ransacked Poole, and they burnt things down, and they killed his brother. But old Harry had fled.
Yeah.
so the Spanish gave Poole a real kind of tearing up. And then when old Harry Pay heard of this, he was a bit angry that his brother had been killed. So he went off with 17 ships, and he managed to, on the French coast, he managed to capture 100 ships, French and Spanish, and bring back all the stuff. And it's said that the people of Poole were drunk for a month on all the stuff he brought back.
They're still drunk now.
Yeah. And it's said that if Poole is ever in trouble again, then the ghostly galleons of Harry Pay and his men turn up and help protect the town.
So is that what old Harry Rocks are named after?
Yes. I think there's conflicting stories. One is that it's about old Harry the Devil, but it's more likely to be about old Harry Pay and where he'd lure kind of boats in and out through there and be able to lose people and tear them up on the rocks.
I never knew that.
Because one of the chalk stacks is called Old Harry, and the other one is called Old Harry's Wife.
Okay, cool. So we should say that. Whereabouts Old Harry Rocks? Where would you say that is? What area?
Studland.
So it's almost like
Poole Bay.
Yeah, kind of where it cut the headland sort of peters off, and there's left a couple of sort of almost like towers of rocks on there. And
yeah, white chalk. It's kind of in between Poole and Swanage, but so the kind of peninsula that goes out there, and then you've got those two needles. I think there's a couple more needles and an archway and stuff, but historically, many years ago, prehistorically, they were joined to the needles.
Oh, okay.
So it's the same band of chalk, and it would have all joined up.
Wow, interesting. Yeah, but when we was talking about old Harry, because I think we saw someone dressed up as a pirate who was advertising the fact that because they do like a regular pirate kind of event down there, don't they?
They do.
Yeah.
There's this chap that dresses up as Jack Sparrow, and he just tries to snog all the girls, and he's full of STDs. I imagine.
Yeah.
It's just, I think that's where COVID came from. That particular
Jack Sparrow impersonation.
Yeah, but everywhere I go, I see that man, and he's always wearing the same outfit. I think he just lives it.
And I think you're just jealous that he gets more funny than you do.
he just kind of gropes and harasses women all the time.
Just like the actual Johnny Depp, it would seem. I don't know if we can say that.
I don't think we can say that.
But the fact I didn't realise that the Spanish came and ransacked Poole Quay. I'm from Poole originally.
I remember you having a hard time with this on the day.
Well, I'm from Poole originally. I left Poole when I was 19, went off, and then I came back to Dorset eventually. But just the idea that the town which I lived in, that at some point in history, you could have been down the quay, and then you see, well, what's that coming into the quay?
I don't think you'd have been, if you were down the quay, you'd have been working, wouldn't you?
Yeah, but the fact
you wouldn't be sitting there having a beer.
No, but still, it's like your home, and you feel like secure. You know, nothing ever happens in Poole, and then suddenly you look up and there's a load of fucking Spanish boats, and they just come in and tear the place apart. It's insane. It's insane that that's only a couple of 100 years ago that kind of stuff happened. You know. Yeah. It's just mental. But
how do you know they're Spanish boats when they come in a distance and they're used to kind of?
You can hear them. You can hear the castanets.
Oh my god. Okay.
Yeah.
Any more racist comments?
That's not racist. It's a cliche.
It's a stereotype. Right, one more pub to go. I feel like we're reliving this in...
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I haven't got the headache yet. I got my glasses.
So again, we sat outside. So we just moved down a few tables because on Poole Quay you've got a row of pubs really, and then a row of
there's 20
many
pubs
kind of tables
in that area, which is again mental. But
that sounds like a challenge, doesn't it? So yes, we went to the Lord Nelson, which is the pub right at the end of the strip. They have a lot of live music. It's not one I've been to many times.
It stinks. It really smells bad.
What can I say? So this one is there's a ghost that apparently has been heard with footsteps up and down the stairs, and yet no one's been around. And they think it's either the landlord of the pub or the artist Augustus John.
Yeah, Bard think it's an artist. So let's talk about the artist.
So he was Welsh. He became a member of the RA the Royal Academy in 1921, and he lived in Poole, and he painted a very famous painting of Lawrence of Arabia.
Oh, okay.
The one in the. If you saw it, you'd recognise it. It's in all the books. It's the one in the. He's quite young, but he's wearing the headdress.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so he painted that. He's quite famous.
That's relatively
portraits.
recent then. This is probably one of the most recent.
One of the most recent ones. Yeah. And I don't really remember much of that time of night. I remember Sean had bought a sailor's hat.
Yeah.
Captain's hat from a gift shop, and we filled it with lots of different types of crisps. So it was a big hat of crisps.
Yeah.
There were hula hoops and golden wonders and skips, maybe.
Yeah. And you were drawing penises on people with UV pens. So that,
yes, we had a UV pen, didn't we? Yeah.
And then so they would light up when you sort of waved the UV light over them. But you thought it was hilarious for the ones on their back. You was doing it with real pen.
I wasn't. I was telling
other people
someone else to do that. Yeah,
just like
but that was good.
Like Charles Manson.
Yeah, and that's when we looked down to see what time train we needed to get home and found that they'd all been cancelled.
Yeah, so we had to get my wife to bring my
reliable
children.
South West trains.
Yeah, my wife put my children in their pajamas over, and we all had to get in the back of the car. Yeah, and that was the end of Sketch Crawl.
That was the end of Sketch Crawl. It wasn't one renowned for artistic merit. Yeah, but it was
someone heard some ghostly children, which I wasn't aware of until we did this podcast. So.
Oh, you're not?
No. Oh. Maybe I was talking bollocks to someone else at the time. And
you were outside there giggling like a small boy.
Yeah. So, ghost pubs. Have you ever been scared in a pub?
Many times. Yeah. Normally when I walk in and everyone stares at me.
Yeah.
And you're not welcome
Drax
here,
arms
boys.
in a Bear Regis. That's the most scared I've ever been in a pub.
Oh.
Yeah.
I can't. I went. No, pub in Wales. We were very not welcome. And then there was. I've been to one on Portland.
Yeah.
That was yeah. So we went into one in Wales a couple of weeks ago, and it looked really terrible from the outside, and everyone was lovely when we got in there.
I went to
lots of flies.
I went to a club in Wales once where you got the beer. Like, they were counter beer with the plastic hoops on them, were handed through a slit in the wall. And there were
classy.
And there were big metal bins on the dance floor for you to throw your tins into. Yeah, and I got propositioned by some right slappers in there. It was
so you went back.
It was a really fun night, but it was like the roughest place I've ever been. It was like being in Mad Max or something. It's somewhere near Swansea, but that was a fun night. But it was but I've never been scared of a ghost in a pub.
No. So one of our local pubs here, they had some Ghostbusters in, and I've watched their YouTube videos of the kind of seance thing they had, and then they had a ticket only live event from midnight till 4 a.m. And I decided not to go because why would I pay to go to a pub when the bar's closed?
Yeah.
And I think they heard a few things which could easily be explained by someone in the room next door. But I need to question people further on that.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll do our own vigil one night. But yeah, that was the ghosts of. I had a nice alliterative thing. What was it? Ghosts of haunted pubs of Poole. I said So that was the haunted pubs of Poole.
Nice. And you're going to make a video, aren't you?
I'm going to try and make a video of this.
Some of the drawings, and I think maybe people could send their sketches in as well that were done on Sketch Crawl.
Yes.
Well, we've got them all on a WhatsApp group. So
we will. Yeah, if you go to YouTube, I will put some of these stories which we described here alongside some of the drawings we did on the day.
Yay!
Cool. We know where we're going next because we've already been there.
Yeah, that's not where we're going next. That's where we've been to, my lover.
Yeah, but the next podcast will be about where we've been already.
Yeah, and again, those poltergeists are playing with me on the way back from that one because my van engine had problems on the way back.
Yeah,
so they're trying to interfere with my travel.
They're trying to stop us uncovering
every time.
Yeah, something is trying to stop us uncovering the darkness of Dorset. But
Totally.
next time, join us for the Pirates Graveyard of Portland. But until then,
Get you with your alliteration.
thank you very much for joining us. Until then, happy day.
Really? It's not natural.
Bye-bye.
Are you waving, Ross?
Yeah.
Are you waving to me?
Yeah, bye-bye. Dave.
Or all our listeners?
Yeah. I'm waving to myself in the mirror behind you, which is quite weird.
If you knows of any weirdness you'd like to share with Dave and Ross, you can tell them by email at darkdorset@gmail.com or talk to them on Twitter at darkdorset. Well, until next time, stay discombobulated.